magical welcome. I'm Lewis. I'm at Disney Pick-a-Day on Twitter, and this is my wonderful co-host.
I'm Val, and I'm at ValPalMickey on Twitter.
And we welcome you to share our Figments of Time. We put out a daily picture on Twitter, followed by reasonably accurate memories, stories, tips, and anecdotes that these pictures remind us of. This is episode 1, and we're going to go way back in time today.
A little too far back in time, actually.
You can never go too far back in time.
Sometimes you can.
I mean, sure, it was a long time ago, but think of how young you were. How nice that was to be, 3 years old or something. I don't know. We'll see when we get to that picture.
Yeah, let's keep moving.
So on Monday, I featured a picture of a ride that's near and dear to my heart. It's a ride that I've actually ridden 58 times in a single day.
Yeah.
And this picture is of Expedition Everest. It's at night. It was lit up all in purple. This picture was taken May 5, 2018. And this is a picture that's interesting, not so much just for the picture itself, but because I have a story about it. I usually don't have stories. I usually don't remember anything about the day or time or whatever's going on in the picture, even if it's people most of the time. I usually have to rely on other people around me to remember what's going on. I'm just like, click, click, click. But I'd spoken at a Sequel Saturday in Jacksonville on that day. And when the conference was over, we got in our car just about 5 o'clock and we hightailed it over to Orlando. So we arrived about 8:30 and we only had just enough time to walk around the park once. What makes that more memorable for me was that it was the first time I was in Disney parks without a scooter for around 10 years. I had a picture at least in 2008 of me in a scooter. I don't know how it wasn't 2 scooters, but it was me in a scooter nevertheless. But after that time, I had my hip replaced a couple of times, and I just finally gotten back to the point where I could walk around. And I saw this after walking to it, thinking just, man, this park is a lot smaller than I thought it looked on the scooter, because when you're in a scooter, they're fantastic if you need them, but it makes everything look bigger. A, because you're small, you're a little bit lower, you're almost child size.
Right.
And you can only move at like a snail's pace. So.
Right. Really slow. They move really slow now. I love this picture. I love this picture spot. There is a marker actually there because there's usually a PhotoPass photographer that stands in that area during the day. And it is between, if you're walking from Nemo musical towards Expedition Everest, it's on a little bridge and you look over to the right and it's just a really excellent place to take a picture. And there's just something about, especially at night, the way the lighting is, and sometimes the way the moon is hitting. I don't take great pictures. You're the photographer in the family. I take snapshots to remind myself of things or just, to use on my own phone for something or to post on Twitter, but I don't take a great picture. And I've taken actually some really excellent pictures of Expedition Everest from this spot. And I know the girls really loved it. Our granddaughters loved it a lot. When we went with them one time, we stopped there and the PhotoPass person took their pictures and they have you act like there's an avalanche and things are shaking and snow is falling. And they have you do all these little cute things there. And then they put all of those things into the picture with a little video when you get it through the app on your phone. And so they really love that PhotoPass spot as well. So it's a really, really great view of Everest.
I will say the purple lighting makes it much easier to take a picture. Cameras seem to like the purple lighting a lot more than I would have imagined.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to Tuesday. Now, this is a picture from a semi-controversial time period for many people. A little bit us now that we've been going for a long time, but on our 4th family trip to Disney World, I took this picture of Spaceship Earth and University of Energy. This was taken back on July the 20th, 2005. And what I really liked was that Spaceship Earth had this big wand pointing out to us where we were at. Because sometimes you're walking around the park and you're like, where am I? Oh yeah, I'm in Epcot.
Yeah, this isn't Magic Kingdom. This is Epcot.
So I At the time, we didn't hate it. It had some sort of thing that they put up for the
Well,
2000s. And we
I,
saw that one year, and then it came up to they put this on there.
I wouldn't say we didn't hate it. We didn't like it. I had such a memory of just the look of, there's something about Spaceship Earth. It's just such an iconic view when you're walking into the park and you see Spaceship Earth. And there was just something to me very disconcerting about the wand and the Epcot and all the doings on it. I was very excited when it went away. When the wand went away.
This is one of those things about nostalgia that's kind of interesting, is you're nostalgic for what you knew first.
Right.
And at the time, I didn't realize how much better it would look without the thing. It's kind of like, well, it's nothing like the hat. I was thinking it's kind of like the hat, right? The hat was awesome in its place. This really wasn't as awesome. I don't wish they had moved this somewhere else. I wish they'd moved the hat somewhere else, but I do not wish they'd moved. Then the hat being the Sorcerer Mickey hat over at Hollywood Studios.
Well, and I love this picture anyway, even though the Epcot wand is there, but I love just that vision of the universe of energy against Spaceship Earth. I loved Universe of Energy. It was one of my favorite attractions at Epcot because I enjoyed the pre-show. I enjoyed the ride vehicles. I enjoyed the multiple aspects of the attraction. The way it started in the theater and then moved, and then it took you through, and then you went back to the movie at the end. And I really loved, and I've referred to it in a way like it's an early example of what they did with Rise of the Resistance. One of the great things about Rise of the Resistance is that you are in all of these different locations, and you're moving, and you move into the vehicle, and then you move to a different location. And that makes it even that much more exciting. And Universe of Energy had that vibe to it, where you had, like I said, the pre-show, and you were in the little theater, and then you saw the funny movie, and then you moved in. Now, I will say the animatronic of Ellen was another disconcerting thing at Epcot during this time period, because she didn't quite look like Ellen when you saw that part of the attraction. But in general, I enjoyed the Universe of Energy. You not so much.
And if you're thinking about sending some hate mail because she equated Rise of the Resistance with Ellen's Universe of Energy, her Twitter account is at ValPalMickey. We did that twice. At ValPalMickey, not Disney Pick a Day. I'm not there. Rise of the Resistance is not a good place to nap. Universe of Energy was the best.
No, I'm not saying that the Universe of Energy was in any way equal to Rise of the Resistance. I said that it was sort of that same concept of multiple locations within the attraction, so that there were different parts to the attraction itself. Not just like, for example, in the Haunted Mansion, when you get into the Doom Buggies, you're in the Doom Buggies the whole time, and then when you're done, you're done. This had the multiple pieces to it once you were inside that I think made it unique and fun for me. I enjoyed it. I never took a nap in it.
On Wednesday, we have a few pictures of our home away from home. And this is Kidani Village.
I love Kidani.
The lobby picture was taken on January the 20th, 2020. And two other pictures of Savannah taken just on the 26th. We were there on our trip, our normal trip last year. We had together 2 trips. I had 3, and one of them was vaguely normal, and that was the January trip. It was not completely normal because we got to meet some fantastic people, which we talked about last week. But I got some pictures of the Savannah. We had a day where the 20th was when we got there. The 26th was when we left. The 20th, I was just snapping pictures, because we're waiting on luggage or something to get set up, or our room. And on the 26th, I took a day. We had to be back to leave, and we had a scooter that we had to return for someone else in the group here who had some injuries last year.
Yeah.
And so I took I took the scooter, and I went all around both Kidani and Jumbo. Took tons of pictures, and I put these in because I just love how big the Savannah is, and how when you go on the inside of the resort, you can see that on the other side there's Jumbo House, and Jumbo House is much bigger than Kidani.
Right.
But they both have that same kind of look, and you can see, and there's a animal out there having a snack. And
well, and I know when you walk into Jumbo House, the lobby is just magnificent, and it's huge and it's beautiful, and there's so much detail. And I've heard before people say, well, when they come into Kidani, it's not quite as spectacular, and it's not, because it's so much smaller. It's a smaller resort. But if you just look at this picture, like for example, just the ceiling and the detail that is even in this smaller lobby, to me, it's just amazing. And I love the detail work. And I think it's so beautiful. And this lobby you still have the little seating areas and the fireplace and the little balconies that you can sit on to look at the animals and to just enjoy the views of the savannah. And it really is. I love going to Kidani. I love just the quiet aspect of it, just the quaintness of it. I love Sanaa. Sanaa is what I believe is a really underrated restaurant for most people that go to Walt Disney World, because a lot of times when I talk to people, they've never heard of it before. And Sanaa is just, the bread service there is amazing.
Always with the bread service.
Always with the bread service. I love the bread service there. But the meals there and the views from Sanaa they're spectacular as well. So I enjoy Kidani. I like Kidani a lot. I'm glad that it's our home resort. It's home.
What's interesting about Sanaa is it's kind of an African Indian fusion-ish, and it's actually where I tried Indian food, and we started eating Indian food because we went there. We had butter chicken as one of the things.
I never could talk you into it before. And then I talked you into going to Sanaa. And then after that, I could talk him into going to get Indian food.
And then we moved someplace where they don't have Indian restaurants anymore.
And now we don't have Indian restaurant here. So yeah.
All right, Thursday. So next up is the Throwback Thursday Delight. And this is the Great Movie Ride. So these two pictures were taken on May 27, 2012. The first is a marquee. This was still pre-TCM day, so this is quite a ways ago in the history. And the second is the wall just across from when you're getting on the vehicle. This would be on the other side of it.
If you're looking at the picture right now, if you see the structure that's there, there's the roof, and there's a little top to the roof, a little silver kind of cap that's at the top of the roof. And to the right of that silver cap is a stump, like a tree stump. And then up and to the right, just a tad, there is a hidden Minnie. It's a silhouette. She's looking to your left if you're looking at the picture. And so she's sort of hidden in that spot. The Great Movie Ride is truly, to me, one of my favorite all-time rides. It was one of the first rides that I just really fell in love with. And when we first started going to, at the time, MGM, and so that's one of the reasons for me, hashtag always MGM. When we first started going, you and our daughter could ride the Rock and Roller Coaster. You rode Tower of Terror. I could not ride Rock and Roller Coaster because of my vertigo. I was afraid to ride Tower of Terror, mostly because of my vertigo at the time. I wasn't sure how I would do. And so I would ride the Great Movie Ride over and over and over again while you guys were on Tower of Terror and Rock and Roller Coaster. And I loved it so much for so many reasons, but part of the reason why I loved it were the cast members. The cast members were amazing. They were very, especially at the beginning when we first started going, they were very, very active in this attraction. They were the ones who gave the spiel. They're the ones who guided the tour. And then of course you have those moments in the Western scene and in the mobster scene where they would act out what was happening on the attraction. And so you would get those moments. In those first few years, I didn't know the trick. I didn't know how to find out how to get the Western scene or how to get the mobster scene. And so I would write it over and over again, hoping to catch a different one than the first one I caught, until I finally one of the cast members told me how to be sure I knew which one I was on. And she also explained to me that they didn't always run both sides, that sometimes they did just run the one. And so once I started learning about it, I could find out a lot more of those little things. But they actually, there were hidden Minnies in this attraction. There were hidden Mickeys in this attraction. There was a hidden Donald in this attraction. And so there were just so many details to everything about it. And so I loved it and I miss it greatly. I wish it were still there.
Yeah, we didn't quite share the same affinity for the ride. I liked it. I liked it more because it helped me learn how to take dark ride pictures. And it actually, we watched a few movies that were fantastic because of the movies in the ride. I actually watched Alien because of this ride. I bought them. I still have only watched the first one. There's only so much time for movies, but yeah, it was a good place to nap too. Usually the second time.
I don't know how you can nap in this one.
If you ride once and you ride again, it's okay to nap.
No.
I don't remember did they go to the recorded spiel when TCM came around or before TCM came around?
I was thinking it was when they added the TCM.
Because it was,
I could be wrong. It's so much changed kind of there around that time that I don't exactly remember, but I feel like they did it when they did the refurb for the TCM movies.
Because I have a picture that will have been tweeted this week before this comes out of the backlot tour that had a cast member who had a microphone on and was clearly going to tell us the story. And I remember the thing about this ride and that one was that if you could hear the people doing the spiel were so much better. It was just fantastic. There'd be little variations in what they said. You know, it was kind of interesting. As they kept adding more automation, it became less and less fun to do more of. And then even worse than that, you know, they kept trying to come up with ways to have them speak. And there was that horn they would speak into to try to make it so you could hear. And it was just so corny. They were like, this is a thing going on. And like,
well, you know, it was a really big deal, especially in the Great Movie Ride. The fact that sometimes if the cast member wasn't projecting well in the back, it was very difficult to hear. And it was so well known that they added that into Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. If you notice when you first start that attraction, Goofy says to you, can everybody hear me back there? And they sort of did that as a nod to the fact that on the Great Movie Ride, a lot of times it was really hard to hear the cast member doing the spiel. And honestly, if you couldn't hear them, it really made it very confusing because you didn't know why they went to get popcorn and why they got off the attraction and all of those kinds of things. So it made it really hard. But if you had that perfect storm, if you had the great cast member that projected and you could hear and they really got into their character well, it was just an amazing experience. And so that was one of the fun things. I did there what I usually do on the Jungle Cruise. If we had a really spectacular cast member that did all of those things, I made a point of finding the manager on duty and saying, you know, Tommy did a great job. He was just extra special. And so that way, you know, that because I wanted to let them know that they really had these moments of it being very spectacular. And so I have fun doing that on the Jungle Cruise though, because when you do that on the Jungle Cruise, they get fired. So it's really
yeah, they're a little more fun there.
So if you want to see something really funny, when you get off, tell the person that's helping you off that your skipper was really extra good and see what happens.
Okay, so let's move on to Friday. Now, the title of this week's episode was In Which We Go Back in Time. And this next picture is specifically why it's titled that. There was taken some time before I even knew that Disney World existed, to be fair.
A long time, probably.
And some of the watchers and listeners probably weren't even born yet.
Talking to you, Steffers.
To say the least. We're talking approximately 1984. This was apparently her senior trip, which was back a few years ago.
A few.
And we're calling it Somewhere in Disney World. Val, why is it somewhere? And what can you tell us about this picture?
Well, it's really bad. I can't remember where it was taken. I have all of these years thought that it was taken at Magic Kingdom. Obviously, this was 1984. There were only two parks. It was Magic Kingdom and Epcot. Also, I still have my ticket. I tweeted it a little while back. I'll have to tweet it again this week. So if you want to see it, it was a 3-day World Pass that gave me access to every attraction in both parks, Magic Kingdom and Epcot. So we went to both parks. I remember very vividly going to both parks. I was in high school. It was our senior year. I was there with all of my friends. We really had a great time. It was just a lot of fun. And we fell in love with Epcot during this trip. The problem is that, like I said, I've always thought that this was the Magic Kingdom. And you can see in the picture I'm with, apparently they were doing meet and greets with Chip and Dale. And I am standing in front of sort of a brick area with trees. And so my brain went to Magic Kingdom whenever I saw this picture. When you pulled it up the other day and I started really looking at it, looking behind me, it almost looks like the area in front of the land. It looks like it's sort of in between the land and imagination. The building behind there almost looks like that little breezeway area where, innovations area and everything is, but I can't quite tell. So I can't tell if I'm just sort of somehow picturing that, or so it could be at Epcot or it could be at Magic Kingdom. I'm hoping somebody's going to see the picture and say, oh, I know exactly where that is. Because like I said, I can't remember exactly where it is, but we had a wonderful time on that trip. And most of my pictures were from Epcot. Back then we had a camera with film and we only had so many shots that we could take. And so my pictures didn't turn out wonderfully, but, and a friend of mine obviously took this one. But I am not quite sure exactly where it's located.
To be fair, you've done better with these pictures than we did with our first trip as a family to Disney World.
Yes.
Totally gone. Still haven't found them.
No.
We thought we found them when we were moving, and we actually found some pictures of our second trip that we had printed.
Right. Yeah. But no, I've kept these. I had these in the scrapbook all these years. And because we did, like I said, we had a wonderful trip. I had a teacher actually that was one of the chaperones on the trip, and she would go anytime the groups would go to Walt Disney World. She made sure she could chaperone because her husband had passed away many years before, and he was an architect. And I remember her telling us the story that not too long before he passed away, he started leaving town to go to Florida to work on this secret project. And he wasn't allowed to tell her what he was working on. And so she didn't have any idea what it was. And then after he passed away, as she was going through his things to get everything to return back to work because he had passed away suddenly, it was unexpected. She found out that he was actually working on Walt Disney World. And so Walt Disney World was always a very special place for her because it meant so much to her to think about her husband spending time there and working there in the months before he passed away. And so she always went with us on this trip or went with the school on the trips to Walt Disney World. And so she was excited that our class chose to go to Walt Disney World for our senior trip. So we had a great time.
How many senior trips did you go on?
No, that's what I mean. I'm sorry. I mean, she would go on anytime the school went on a trip to Walt Disney World, she went on it. I just had the one senior trip.
Yeah, I'll tell you what our senior trip was. It wasn't Disney World. I actually have no idea if we had a senior trip. I don't remember. Maybe they just didn't invite the cool kids. Wait, I think I got that backwards. But
probably backwards. We worked really hard to get to. I mean, we did a lot to be able to earn the money to be able to do this trip. So
I was more the kid that would have been on a watch list today. Not that I was actually bad, but I was just very sullen, green wearing kind of kid. It was. So a couple of shocking things about this picture. One, there are so many places to sit down. I mean, you can see there are at least 20 or 30 people in this picture sitting down.
Oh, all the benches and then the brick around the trees. And then if you look back, do you see all the tables? There's you can see awnings on probably 8 or 9 tables back there. So it definitely was a place where you could sit wherever I am.
And it doesn't look like it's a restaurant.
No.
So the second thing about this picture is, well, the glasses you're wearing are humongous.
And I don't know why I'm wearing my glasses either, because I wore contact lenses back then. So I don't know what happened that made me wear glasses that day.
But the shirt you're wearing is not a Disney shirt.
No, it's an Ocoee Outdoors shirt from where we had gone White River rafting on another trip earlier that year. Because honestly, this had been the first time I had gone to Disney since I was very young, since I was 7. And so my family, we didn't take family vacations. We never went to Disney World after that very initial trip when I was 7, where they have no pictures of me and they don't remember anything about the trip. They can't
I love that story.
even tell me, they can't even tell me what we rode. They have no memory of the parks whatsoever. I'm concerned we may have just stayed at the Contemporary and not even gone to the park, quite honestly, for all that I know, because they never had any memories of the park whatsoever. And so this was my first trip to Disney that I really, really learned about Disney. I really remember it. I remember it really well because it was my first roller coaster. Space Mountain was the first roller coaster I had ever ridden. I'd never been to a theme park. When I was really young, I had gone with a group to Lake Winnebasoka, but I was too young to ride roller coasters. I rode like the Himalayan and I rode the Mousetrap coaster, but I couldn't ride the large coasters. I wasn't allowed to. So I really felt like Space Mountain was my first big roller coaster because it was just very exciting. I remember being really nervous and it was just so much fun. But I will have to admit, for years later, when we finally saw Space Mountain for the first time, when we went through the TTA, when the lights were on, I just remember being kind of disappointed because I thought, wow, that looks like a Mousetrap coaster. It really doesn't look like the big, huge, massive coaster that it was in my head. You know, it was this big, huge, massive coaster in my mind. So
they totally need to let us ride that with the lights on occasionally.
Oh, no.
I'll pay extra.
We rode it one time when this emergency lights came on because something happened when we were in mid, and it scared me to death. You're just so close to those bars.
It's totally awesome. I loved every minute of that.
Terrified us.
Because you're not that close. You're as close as you are in any roller coaster.
Oh, it feels so close. No.
Okay, so let's move on.
It was a fun trip.
So now we're coming back a little bit closer time period, at least in the current millennium we're in. And this picture was taken on May 21st, 2011. And we're standing just outside of Narcosis. When it's about time for the fireworks, they have you leave your table and go outside. And they have the audio playing for the fireworks so you can watch the fireworks. The most interesting part about this picture for me is that I think it may have been the first time I ever ate at a resort that I wasn't staying at. And it may actually be the only time I've eaten at a resort that was not the one I was staying at.
I think so. We went to the Wave.
The Wave. That's true. We did go to the Wave.
We did go to the Wave.
Take it back.
So yes. So
specifically to see the fireworks. But yes.
Right. Well, and that's what everybody has to understand. If you know us very well, you have heard me say often, I cannot get Lewis to leave the parks long enough to go eat at any of the resorts. Occasionally, I can talk him into doing a late dinner at the resort where we're staying, but I cannot get him to make reservations to go to meals outside of the parks because for him, you know, we're there at rope drop, we're there until the park closes. He is not going to waste the time to travel to another area outside the parks. He's not going to lose that park time. But I really do think the only reason why I talked him into Narcosis is because he could see the fireworks and take pictures. I think that was probably the reason why he agreed to do it. And so it was for an anniversary, if I remember right. So it was an anniversary dinner. So it was a special dinner, but I do believe that it was because of the fireworks. And that was the first time he realized there was a water show. He had never seen the water parade.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw it parked when I walked by on our trip in December and was saddened because I haven't really gotten a good chance to go back out and see that and take pictures of it. Since then, because honestly, I'm not leaving the park to go see the water parade. I mean, as much better as my mobility is now, I'm still not going to walk a bunch of time to just come back. And although I did walk all the way to the not contemporary, the Grand Floridian and the Polynesian one afternoon. So who knows? Anything's possible.
He's getting better about it. And there was one he has gone to Disney a few times without me. I have never gone to Disney without him. But there was one day that he was speaking at a conference and I stayed at the parks. And I actually made a reservation and ate at Hahana for breakfast because I had been hearing so many wonderful things about it. And I had been wanting to try Tonga toast for so long. And so that was how I finally was able to go to Ohana to eat. But typically we do not eat at the resorts.
And I don't remember if I brought this up last week, but you can see in this picture, the dot. I left the dot in. There was a time period I had a pretty decent camera, but it had a missing pixel. And usually I'll edit those out, but it's just something that's nostalgic in my head about the time where I was carrying around a camera that I had to edit every picture because there was a little red dot taken out of that. It's not a UFO. It's nothing nefarious going on. I also I love that whole way that looks, the fireworks going off above there and how far this is. So we're over on the other side of Seven Seas Lagoon. There's the castle. There's the train station.
And Space Mountain.
And it's all lined up so you can see from there. But if you look at it from any other direction, obviously fireworks are great from any angle. Like I would love to live in a house, one of the houses that, lives in that area where you can see the fireworks.
I know that would be cool.
But it's interesting just how close and how far these things are from each other. And it's a really nice thing. I mean, we stayed at the Polynesian last time for a couple of days and no fireworks. It's like we got some of the excitement of staying in the nice monorail resort, except for being able to ride the monorail. But the boats were actually fantastic. So there's some really great things about staying in that area.
Well, I have to say, any of the restaurants where you have the opportunity to see the fireworks, like for example, when we went to the Wave, we had the opportunity to go on the balcony and watch the fireworks from there. And it's an amazing view to see the castle, to see Space Mountain, to see the fireworks from that location. I loved how they had like a little map that pointed out what the horizon looked like it kind of pointed out what each building was and where you would look to see certain things. And so there is something really neat about going to a restaurant and being able to see the fireworks and hear the music. So you get to enjoy the entire show, but you have this angle that's very unique and very different. And so it's well worth the time to do a fireworks show at one of the restaurants where they give you that opportunity.
And to clarify, when we went to the Wave, we were at a DVC package and we ate at the Wave and then we went up to the Top of the World Club lounge on over at Bay Lake Towers. So It's not a normal thing everybody can do I don't think unless you're DVC members. If you're DVC members, it's really worth going up to the Top of the World lounge and checking out the fireworks from up there once fireworks resume, which I'm 99% sure they will resume. Who knows? Things might change, but
the dinner at Narcosi was a normal.
Yes,
anyone can do that. And then there are other restaurants where you can do the fireworks packages through where you don't have to have DVC.
All right, our last day. We're rounding the bases. We're heading for home. And we're in Epcot. So this picture was taken on September the 26th, 2020. This was a trip I was on by myself. You can tell it's pretty recent because you can see the Guardians coaster there to the right. And it was replacing the Universe of Energy that we showed earlier. Not soon enough will it replace Universe of Energy. Not because of the Universe of Energy, but because the ride there just looks amazing with a coaster that turns around and points you different directions. Yeah. And I love the shot through the Torii in Japan. Though to be fair, there's a little barge over here that really got in my picture and really annoyed me. I'm really hoping this little barge here will not be there next time I'm taking this picture.
I
think it might be replaced by something else.
I don't know what's going to happen. I really am very, very excited for Harmonious. I am really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be. I'm hoping it's going to be an amazing show. I will have to say though, one of my favorite things about Epcot is that I love going and finding a little spot in the World Showcase where I can just look across the water at the view. And I have a few little spots that I will go and sit, while you're doing other things, or sometimes if you're doing something where I'm at Epcot and you're riding a ride or you're somewhere else, that I can just kind of head to my little spots and I sit and I just enjoy the view. And I will have to say that when Illuminations was happening, I was always a little disappointed when the barges for Illumination would come out, because I always felt like they ruined the view a little bit, only because your eye is so drawn to this large kind of brassy looking thing in the water. And so you just, it drew your attention. And so I'm not sure how the barges for Harmonious are going to look. I can imagine if they have the water features, maybe they'll be spectacular, but I just still feel like your eye is going to be drawn away from just that natural view that you get when you're sitting and looking across the water.
Because your eye is generally drawn to the spaceship Earth, at least on this side of the place. And then from the other side, you can see Japan and Morocco. Those stand out pretty nice. Mexico looks great as well.
Right. I always like to try to look for Tower of Terror when I'm looking in that direction to see how it blends in with Morocco. And I like to look for all the little things. My favorite spot, there's a little seating area that's right over the bridge from the United Kingdom going into France. If you're going from the United Kingdom into France, it's on the left, and you just kind of turn onto this little path to the left, and there's some little bench kind of areas there where you can sit. And it is just a beautiful view across to Japan and to the American Adventure. And I love that view. And I'm just a little nervous that we're going to lose a lot of that when the barges are fully in place. But you don't know. I mean, I'm sure that they are aware of that. And so I have faith that they are going to make it look amazing. It just is making me a little bit nervous.
Just a little bit.
A little bit.
I mean, hopefully Harmonious will be slightly better than Epcot forever.
Hopefully it'll be amazing and it won't matter, and we'll love the barges and we'll be glad they're there. And that is what I'm hoping for.
We'll be begging for more barges.
Yes.
Put up a few more barges here.
I don't know. We'll see.
I don't feel like that's going to happen, but
yeah.
Okay. So that is our show for the week. I hope you enjoyed. Val, you have any final words?
No, we appreciate anyone who's been listening. This has just been an exciting thing for us to try, and we're enjoying it. And I feel like we're recording stories for our grandkids to listen to and for our family to have. But I hope that some of our friends can come along for the ride while we just sort of reminisce about things that we think we remember.
In the future, I may have to let her do the announcing because that was so much better than mine.
No.
See you real soon.
Bye. Thanks again.